The retail giant Tesco has announced that it has moved into the pharmacy business in Ireland, which it says is going to be good news for customers. Dermot Breen is Corporate Affairs Director of Tesco Ireland. Dermot, is this just putting pharmacies into existing shops, or is this new shops?
Well, we've already have about 4 pharmacies in some of our shops on a concession basis. That these are units rented and run by local pharmacists. But what we've done this week is open 2 of our own managed pharmacies with our own professional pharmacists on site in each location, and we will be opening a 3rd one next month. So we've sort of moved into the pharmacy business on our own account, as opposed to exclusively through local concessions.
Is it a line of business that attracts customers in so you make profit on the retail sales, or is it profitable in and of itself?
Well, this isn't a marketing exercise. This is about providing a service in terms of medicines which will be sold under the HSE recommended pricing model.
Yeah, but not the HSE. You are there to make a profit, though, Dermot.
Well, of course, everybody in business will make a profit, seeks to make a profit, but that's the nature of business. But our purpose is not as a marketing thing, but simply to provide that service to customers, which ultimately will be a wider part of the business. Price-wise,
where are you going to be?
As we said, we are following the HSE recommended model, which is basically to charge €3.50 per prescription item and a 20% retail markup. That's where we're at.
With your buying power across Europe, would you not have the capacity to do things like parallel import and sell drugs an awful lot cheaper than the HSE's recommended prices?
It may be possible, but there are strict controls over the pricing of medicines, and we certainly don't see this on the same level as selling baked beans or selling cornflakes. Medicines are strictly controlled, and we will certainly work within the regulations and under the guidance of the HSE on this.
What will you be doing in relation to generic substitution?
Well, generic drugs are available alongside with the branded drugs, and we would certainly have be providing all of those options.
But it is an option, or will you be, as a matter of course, replacing branded with generic?
Well, those are already available, and it depends. I mean, it depends on the prescription that the doctor has written, but certainly we would be making available generic drugs in all cases.
But if a script arrives and the script calls for a branded product, you'll dispense a branded product?
Well, yes, you must. Well, I think pharmacists are obliged to stick to the details of the script as presented. But customers can ask for a generic option, and we will always make that available.
What do you make of the reaction that there is bound to be, which is the one that says this is going to squeeze already pressured pharmacists in small towns all the way around the country out of business?
Well, that's not our intention, and we by the end of this month we will only have 3 pharmacies open, and over the next 2 to 3 years we'll have no more than about 10 open. That's all that's in our plan. So, I mean, that's not going to squeeze people around anywhere. We'll be a fairly small player. For example, the Unicare network has 72 pharmacies, Boots has 66 pharmacies, so we'll be a relatively small player in the overall market with just less than 10 pharmacies. So we're not going to be a major player, but I mean, the issue here is everybody who opens a business prevents a threat to an existing business, whether it's a small shop or a pharmacy or a large shop or whatever. So, I mean, what it does provide is choice for consumers, and consumers make their choices on that basis.
Given Tesco's capacity to get into seemingly odd lines of business, from mobile phones through to petrol, are we likely to see this expanding into being Tesco primary care centres?
Not necessarily. No. I think that's taking things a bit far. What you have is a bit of diversification within the business, and opportunities arise, and some businesses have tried, some don't work, and they're closed and moved on to other things. So there's no grand control scheme or thought process. It's just opportunities arise for diversification, and we try those out.
Not wishing to be rude, why did this take so long? Because the market deregulated a long time ago, and there's tons of examples in the US of retailers of similar scale to Tesco with pharmacies in-house.
Yeah, well, I think the regulatory system in Ireland, process in Ireland, has changed a lot in recent years, and there's been a fair degree of influence from the EU under competition legislation and so on, so that the actual regulatory environment was fairly difficult up to the last few years. So it has changed so that the opportunities for expansion in the business are a little bit more open now.
And give us the numbers again. You said you had how many open currently, and the target is?
Well, our own pharmacies, we have 2 open this week. and we have another one opening in Portlaoise in a few weeks' time, and our plan is to have about 10 altogether over the next 3 years.
Dermot, thank you very much. That's Dermot Breen, who is Corporate Affairs Director of Tesco Ireland, with us as well as Darragh O'Loughlin, who is President of the Irish Pharmacy Union. Darragh, this means presumably a threat for some of your members.
Yes, although healthcare is not strictly a business, and pharmacists are healthcare professionals and would have good relationships with their own patients and customers in their particular communities.
They make profit off a non-business.
Pharmacists who are located close to these outlets will undoubtedly feel the pressure, and it's already an extremely competitive, extremely pressurised and a tight margin business for independent pharmacies.
Is there anything that can be done about it, or is that just free market?
This is a free market. Ireland has a completely deregulated liberal pharmacy market. Anybody, any person or any organisation who wants to open a pharmacy can do so, and that has been the case since 2002. So there are no barriers there to prevent anybody from opening up. By and large, Irish patients appreciate the service and the relationship with the local community pharmacist who's embedded in the community, and they tend to search for a pharmacy where the balance of service and support and price is what suits them, and a convenient location. And we would hope that they will continue to support their local pharmacies. Although
presumably, Darragh, for people who regularly refill prescriptions, it'll be very tempting to do the grocery shop and get the meds all in the one go.
Yes, it will. And clearly that is going to suit a lot of people for convenience reasons, and there will be some who will be driven by price as well, who will find the Tesco offer attractive. But broadly speaking, people who use pharmacists recognise the support and the healthcare advice that they're getting and will continue to get, and Irish pharmacists will compete as best they can, as they do already, to provide the best value possible for their own patients.
What kind of situations are your members finding themselves in at the moment? Because pharmacy was one of those industries where there was an awful lot of leverage and an awful lot of investment after deregulation. I'm sure a lot of them have to be very stretched now.
Very stretched. Just last week we saw another 14 pharmacies going into administration. We have seen a significant number of pharmacies going through financial restructurings. They're extremely overstretched in many cases, and that's something that pharmacy payments from the state have been cut by 40% in 2 years. 10% of all the jobs in the sector have been lost in the last 2 years. It's a sector that's very much struggling, with average profit margins of about 4% after overheads have been paid for. There's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and life is not easy for pharmacists, but they continue to provide the best service that they can under the circumstances.
Is it possible that we'll see a situation like was reputed to have happened when Superquin moved into butchery, that local butchers went and worked for Superquin? Do you think we'll see pharmacists knocking on the door of Tesco looking for jobs and closing shops?
It's hard to predict exactly how this will work out. We did see in the UK, when the major supermarkets started installing pharmacies inside the supermarket, that the local independent pharmacies did close down at the rate of about 4% a year. And hundreds of pharmacies have closed down in the UK as a result. And many of those pharmacists will have had to seek employment elsewhere. So it's not something that can be ruled out.
Darragh, thank you very much for taking the time to come on. That is Darragh O'Loughlin, who is President of the Irish Pharmacy Union.
This is The Last Word with Matt Cooper on Today FM.